The Queen's voice was ice cold. "You were never meant to survive this family, Diana." Diana stared at her mother-in-law in disbelief. "What did you just say?" Queen Elizabeth leaned back in her chair and repeated it slowly, deliberately. "You were never meant to survive." March 15th, 1996. The phone call had come at 8:47 a.m., not from palace staff, but from the Queen's private secretary directly. "Her Majesty requests your presence at Buckingham Palace this afternoon. 3 p.m., private audience, come alone." Diana's protection officer, Inspector Graham Walsh, had been concerned. "Ma'am, come alone is unusual protocol. I should accompany you into the meeting." "The Queen has made her wishes clear, Graham. I'll be fine. It's just tea with my mother-in-law." But Diana's hands trembled as she said it. Private audiences with the Queen had become increasingly rare since the separation from Charles. This summons felt different. Ominous. Diana arrived at Buckingham Palace at 2:55 p.m., dressed conservatively in a navy suit, her hair pulled back simply. She was escorted not to the usual receiving rooms, but to the Queen's private study on the second floor, a room Diana had only been in twice before, both times for serious family discussions. The study was smaller than people imagined, lined with dark wood bookshelves and family photographs carefully curated to project both power and tradition. Queen Elizabeth sat behind an antique desk, reading glasses perched on her nose, reviewing documents. She didn't look up when Diana entered. "Sit down, Diana." Diana sat in the chair across from the desk, feeling like a student called to the headmaster's office. The Queen continued reading for another full minute, a power play Diana recognized. Finally, Elizabeth removed her glasses and looked directly at Diana. "I've been reviewing your activities over the past 18 months. The interviews, the charity work, the carefully leaked stories to sympathetic journalists. You've been quite busy building your alternative court, haven't you?" "I've been doing the work I believe in, ma'am. Helping people who need support. Don't play naive with me. You've been systematically undermining this institution while claiming the moral high ground. The landmine campaign was particularly clever. How could we criticize you for caring about maimed children? The AIDS work gave you the compassionate princess narrative. Every move calculated to make you the victim and us the villains." Diana felt anger rising. "Those causes are genuine. I don't doubt you care. But you also understand optics. You've turned yourself into the people's princess while painting the monarchy as cold and outdated. That was always your gift, Diana. Emotional manipulation disguised as authenticity. Is that why you summoned me? To criticize my charity work?" Queen Elizabeth stood and walked to the window overlooking the palace gardens. "I summoned you because it's time we had an honest conversation about your position in this family. No more pretense, no more protocol, just truth." Diana waited, her stomach knotting. "You were chosen to marry Charles for very specific reasons?" The Queen continued, still facing the window. "Young, aristocratic, but not too powerful. Virgin, photogenic, fertile. You ticked every box we required. The Spencer family was ambitious enough to agree, but not influential enough to cause problems. Perfect breeding stock with acceptable lineage." The casual cruelty of the phrase made Diana flinch. "I know I was chosen, not loved. But do you understand why?" The Queen turned to face her. "This family has survived for over 1,000 years by understanding one fundamental truth. The institution is more important than any individual. Kings, queens, princes, princesses, we're all temporary. The crown endures." "What does this have to do with— You were supposed to be temporary, Diana. Produce heirs, support your husband, stay quiet, accept your role, then gradually fade into the background like every other royal spouse has done. Attend your charities, cut your ribbons, smile for cameras, and never, ever challenge the system." Diana felt cold spreading through her chest. "But I didn't stay quiet." "No, you didn't." The Queen returned to her desk, pulling out a thick folder. "You started asking questions, making demands, expecting emotional support from people bred specifically not to provide it. You wanted Charles to love you the way you loved him. You wanted to modernize traditions that have worked perfectly well for centuries. You wanted to matter as an individual rather than as a function. I wanted to be treated like a human being. You were treated exactly as every royal spouse has been treated. The difference is that you refused to accept it." The Queen opened the folder. "This file documents your behavior since marrying into this family. The bulimia, the suicide attempts, the affairs, the tell-all interview, the secret recordings, the leaked stories. each incident carefully cataloged. Diana stared at the folder, seeing page after page of reports, photographs, medical records. You've been spying on me. We've been documenting a problem that needed to be addressed. You see, Diana, when someone refuses to follow the rules, when they actively work to damage the institution, they become a liability, and liabilities must be managed. Managed? What does that mean? Queen Elizabeth's expression was completely neutral, showing neither anger nor sympathy. It means we had to decide how to handle someone who was simultaneously valuable and dangerous. Valuable because of your popularity, dangerous because of what you might reveal. I haven't revealed anything that isn't true. Truth is irrelevant. Perception is what matters, and you've been very effective at controlling perception. The wronged wife, the loving mother, the compassionate humanitarian. Meanwhile, you've systematically exposed our family's private matters to public scrutiny. Diana stood up. Your family's treatment of me deserves scrutiny. Charles's affair, your emotional coldness, the complete lack of support when I was struggling. Sit down. The Queen's voice carried absolute authority. Diana found herself sitting. You think you're the first person to struggle in this role? You think you're the first spouse to discover that royal marriages are about dynasty, not romance? Every generation has someone who finds the role difficult. The difference is that previous generations understood their duty was to endure, not to expose. So I should have just suffered in silence? You should have understood what you were signing up for. This isn't a normal family, Diana. We don't operate on normal emotional frequencies. We are a business, an institution, a symbol. Personal happiness is secondary to institutional stability. Diana felt tears forming, but fought them back. Then why did you let me marry Charles if you knew I'd struggle? We didn't know you'd struggle. We thought you were stronger. Young and naive, yes, but from good stock. The Spencer women have always understood duty. Your grandmother was a royal lady-in-waiting for decades without complaint. We assumed you'd inherited that capability. I'm not my grandmother. Clearly. The Queen pulled out a specific document from the folder. This is a psychological assessment completed by Dr. Maurice Lipsedge in 1982, shortly after you started showing symptoms. He concluded that you had borderline personality disorder with narcissistic tendencies. His recommendation was immediate intervention. Diana felt like she'd been slapped. That's not true. I've never been diagnosed with... The diagnosis was suppressed because it would have damaged the monarchy. A mentally unstable Princess of Wales would have been a disaster, so we managed it quietly. Therapy, medication, carefully controlled public appearances. We tried to help you adjust. You tried to control me. We tried to save you from yourself. And we tried to save this institution from the damage you were causing. The Queen's voice remained level, clinical. But you refused every attempt at help. You rejected the therapists we provided. You stopped taking the medication. You started making secret recordings of family conversations. You began leaking stories to journalists. You transformed from a problem we were managing into an active threat. Diana's voice was shaking. A threat? To what? To everything. The monarchy's reputation, Charles's future as king, the boy's upbringing, the institution itself. You became someone who needed to be neutralized. The word hung in the air between them. Neutralized. What does that mean? Diana asked quietly. Queen Elizabeth closed the folder. It means we had to make decisions about your future. Difficult decisions. Decisions that prioritize the institution over the individual. Say it clearly. What did you decide? The Queen met Diana's eyes with a look of absolute coldness. We decided that you were never meant to survive this family. The room seemed to freeze. Diana stared at her mother-in-law, unable to process what she'd just heard. What did you just say? Queen Elizabeth leaned back in her chair and repeated it slowly, deliberately. You were never meant to survive. Are you threatening me? I'm being honest with you. Finally, completely honest. You wanted truth? Here it is. From the moment you started becoming a problem, we knew you would need to be removed. The only question was how and when. Diana felt her heart pounding. Removed? You're talking about killing me? I'm talking about protecting an institution that's more important than any one person. Kings and queens throughout history have made difficult decisions to preserve the crown. This is no different. This is murder. This is statecraft. This is what's required when someone threatens something that millions of people depend on. The monarchy isn't just a family, Diana. It's stability, tradition, national identity. We can't allow one unstable woman to destroy centuries of carefully maintained credibility. Diana stood up, backing toward the door. You're insane. All of you. You're actually planning to kill me because I made you look bad? Because you're making us look irrelevant. Because you're showing the world that the emperor has no clothes. Because young people look at you and wonder why they need us at all. The queen stood as well. Every institution needs maintenance. Sometimes that means removing parts that don't function properly. I'm a human being. You're a cog in a machine. We all are. Some cogs are more replaceable than others. You've served your primary function. You gave us 2 heirs. Everything else has been increasingly problematic. Diana's hand found the door handle. I'm leaving, and I'm going to tell everyone about this conversation. Who would believe you? The queen's voice was almost amused. The mentally unstable princess claiming the queen threatened her? We have files documenting your paranoia, your instability, your tendency toward dramatic accusations. We've been building that narrative for years. If you go public with this, you'll simply confirm what we've been quietly suggesting, that you're delusional. Diana realized with horror that it was true. Every leaked story about her mental health, every careful suggestion that she was fragile, every public episode that had been documented, it had all been preparation for this moment. They'd been systematically destroying her credibility so that if she ever exposed them, no one would believe her. The boys, Diana said desperately. William and Harry need me. The boys need stability. They need to be raised as future royals, not torn between a mother who fights against the system and a father who embodies it. We're prepared to make the case that you're an unfit mother if necessary. Your medical records, your affairs, your suicide attempts, all evidence that the boys might be better off with limited access to you. You wouldn't. We would. We will. Whatever is necessary to protect the institution. Diana felt tears streaming down her face now. You're monsters, all of you. We're realists. We understand that some things matter more than individuals. You came into this family thinking you could change it, humanize it, modernize it. But institutions don't change for individuals. Individuals either adapt or they're removed. I'll fight you. I'll tell everyone. You'll be careful, the queen interrupted. Because if you cause too much trouble, the decisions we've been planning might be implemented sooner rather than later. There are ways to make things look like accidents, Diana. Car crashes, medical complications, unfortunate incidents that remove problems while generating sympathy. Diana opened the door. I'm going to my solicitor. I'm documenting everything. Do what you must. We've been preparing for every eventuality. The question is whether you want to live quietly with your boys, maintaining limited access to them, or whether you want to fight a battle you cannot win and lose everything, including potentially your life. Diana left the study, her legs barely holding her up. Inspector Graham was waiting in the corridor. One look at her face and he moved to support her. Ma'am, what happened? Take me home, Diana whispered. Just take me home. The drive back to Kensington Palace was a blur. Diana sat in the back seat, staring out the window, replaying the Queen's words. You were never meant to survive this family. It explained everything. The isolation, the lack of support, the systematic undermining of her credibility. They hadn't been trying to help her adjust. They'd been preparing for her eventual removal. Back at Kensington Palace, Diana immediately called her solicitor, Anthony Matthews, and her private secretary, Patrick Morrison. When they arrived, she recounted the entire conversation. Anthony's face grew increasingly grave. Your Royal Highness, what you're describing is, I hardly know what to call it, a direct threat? She said I was never meant to survive. She said they're planning to remove me. She said they could make it look like an accident. Patrick was pacing. We need to document this, record every detail while it's fresh, but we also need to be strategic. If you go public with accusations that the Queen threatened your life, they'll use your medical history to discredit you. She said exactly that. She said they've been building a narrative of me being mentally unstable so that no one would believe me if I exposed them. Anthony pulled out his legal pad. Then we need evidence. We need documentation, recordings, witnesses. We need to build a case so strong that it can't be dismissed as paranoid delusions. Over the following weeks, Diana began carefully documenting everything. Detailed. Journals, medical records, recordings of phone calls. She wrote sealed letters describing the Queen's threats and deposited them with trusted individuals. She also took precautions, varied routes, car checks, security protocols, but the psychological toll was enormous. Every public appearance felt like a potential last appearance. She confided in close friends. "They're planning something," she told Rosa Monckton. "The Queen admitted it. I'm not meant to survive." She spoke with her sons, preparing them. "William, Harry, I love you more than anything. If anything happens to me, remember I fought to stay with you. Promise me you'll question what you're told about me." After the divorce in August 1996, Diana was systematically separated from royal protection. Each step distanced her from the institution while maintaining appearances of amicable separation. Diana continued her humanitarian work with increased intensity, as if racing against time, building a legacy that would outlast her. In a final conversation with her butler, Paul Burrell, Diana handed him a sealed envelope. "If anything happens to me, make sure people know what's in this letter. Make sure they know I predicted my own death." The envelope contained the Queen's exact words: "You were never meant to survive this family." 17 months after that conversation, Princess Diana died in Paris. Official explanation: driver error, paparazzi pursuit. But the letter told a different story. A story of institutional ruthlessness. A woman who knew she was marked for removal. Queen Elizabeth never publicly commented beyond formal statements, but those who knew about March 1996 understood the Queen had been honest. She had told Diana exactly what would happen, and then it happened. Diana knew. She documented it. She tried to warn people, but institutions are more powerful than individuals. Some families survive by removing members who threaten to expose them. You were never meant to survive this family. Both confession and prophecy. Diana's death wasn't an accident. It was the final solution to a problem the royal family had been planning to eliminate. The chilling truth: Diana saw it coming, but knowing doesn't always save you from the inevitable.